Hi. I'm currently in bed inside of St. Annie's Hospital in northern London. Dr. Martin kindly allowed me to use his laptop so I can explain how I got here and, well, what happened to me. My name is David Arginto. I am 16 years old and apparently I'm suffering from a mental illness of some kind. There was only so much I could take in from the doctor's words in the opposite patient room since I have a bloody massive headache. I've been given a fair amount of ibuprofen, but this headache seems permanent. But I don't care. I absolutely must get this written down at all costs. Anyways, you might be wondering how I got here, so here's my story. About 4 nights ago, I went upstairs to the loft and took my old school books to the burning pile. I just finished my GCEs, and like all my friends, hated every single subject I did: math, history, English, especially English. You name it, I really hated it, so I found the books exactly where I left them a few months back. Or dumped, to be more precise. In a corner that was so old there was enough dust to make a con floss, or con candy for US Americans. I scorned the moment I looked at them again, except I knew this would be the last time I'd have to look at them though. So I collected them all underneath one arm, disgusted. I considered changing my clothes shortly afterwards. But then something caught my eye. I'm not really sure how I noticed, but I remember being so intrigued that I dropped the books on the loft floor and picked it up. It was a red CD-ROM case about the size of the average book. There was no words of any kind, even when I turned it over to the other side. I saw it all. I was kind of excited. It looked like a computer game that was owned by the previous house owners that they had left behind. Since I absolutely loved computers at the time, I was interested in giving it a go on my Dell. But when I opened the case, the disc inside lacked any kind of artistic illustrations. Instead, just a bland white color with some text written on it in a black marker pen. The words were Chatroom 98. I wasn't exactly pleased when I learned it wasn't a game, but since someone had actually went through the effort of making a chat room disk rather than the vast chat rooms available on the internet, I concluded it would be somehow different. That I did get right. Having kicked the worthless books down the attic ladder, I insert the disk inside my old laptop. After a brief moment, a red box with no text in it appeared. I wasn't sure what to make of it at first, but it seemed to linger there for half a minute. Then the screen went black for a brief moment and flashed the words, "Welcome to Chatroom 98." Appeared at the top center of the screen. Chatroom 98. What was the significance of that number? Then what appeared to be a white text box opened up in the center. I didn't know what to type, so I just put hello. I didn't expect any kind of response, but then I got one. A person by the name Darwin Clark replied, "Good afternoon." There was no possible way that this person was real. It seemed like I was the only possessor of this chat room disk. Then I realized it was one of those chatbots, a software designed to stimulate an intelligence conversation with whoever talks to it. I still thought it was strange though. I'd only lived in my current house for 6 years, but I'd never encountered that red box my entire life. I suppose the house's previous owners must have owned it, but it's not like they owned a computer, unless you want to count the smashed up to pieces one that we threw away to the dump when we first arrived. Anyways, I tried to start a conversation to see what the extent the AI had programmed. "Lovely weather we're having," I wrote. No sooner than 3 seconds, Mr. Cart replied, "No, it seems rather miserable today." I was taken aback. The weather was more or less exactly how he put it. I didn't know either until I looked out the window and saw it was about to rain. It seemed the books had one more day to live, but I wasn't too surprised. The chat box was probably programmed to say that since this is England I live in. It could be more than likely. I then typed in, "So, what are your favorite movies?" Again, I got a response. "I don't watch movies. I prefer the theater." Theater? Was I talking to an old man? I replied, "How old are you?" I didn't care if the bot got offended, it would have to give me an answer eventually. The answer was Tell you about myself. I was born in 1867 and grew up with two sisters, whom I hated. Okay, right. Whoever programmed this was clearly having a laugh. I typed back, laughing hysterically as I wrote. Well, I was born in 2098 with two identical twin brothers who are also aliens from the planet Boogaloo. I am also Jesus. I wondered what the senile old man would say next. I knew it was a chatbot, but I kept thinking it was a real person for some reason. He said, "Really? I drove you. Nice to meet you, Mr. Jesus. Have your brothers adopted anyone yet?" I cracked up again. Whoever made this must have done an impressive job. I typed in, "Yes, they're actually alien pedophiles who prey on human children. But you better watch out, they also have a fetish for CD-ROMs." Next reply was just plain unsettling. Clark replied, "Well, although I may appear to be a CDI-ROM, I was actually a human myself. Once until I faced judgment for my transgressions." I didn't know what the fuck he was saying, but that poignant detail of his description startled me for a second. It felt real. Too real. And then to my surprise, he typed another message. "You don't understand. Let me make myself clear. Plain. My sisters, who I hated, met with a tragic accident." I was starting to feel cold. This was not just a chat box. This must have been a psycho chat box or something. Or if it was a big joke, I typed in to see his reaction. "Do you know what else my brothers have done lately?" And I was met with a big surprise. Darling Clark responded again, only this time I could see his message being typed like a thicker tape typewriter. "You're only a child, David." What the actual fuck? I was seriously getting creeped out now, so I typed in, "What the fuck are you?" And the response simply couldn't have been made by an AI. It seemed too much like a human was actually talking to me. "Let me tell you a story. Do you know what happened to your house previous owners?" I sat there like an idiot, staring at the computer, awaiting a response. "The same that happened to my two sisters, remember. I despise both of them." That was it. I moved the cursor to the top right corner to click the cross button and end this nightmare. I was relieved. I had only been taking to it for 5 minutes, but it seemed like 2 hours. But then I tried to shut down the PC. The unthinkable happened. The computer became unresponsive. It all went glitched and fuck up. Worse still, the chat room opened by itself and I got another message. And by the time I was sure to be hallucinating by now, "You have not heard everything yet." I scrambled at the keyboard. I was losing my mind. "Are you fucking with my computer? Stop. This is seriously not funny." Finally, I think this is where it happened. Darwin Clark typed in again, this time in a much slower, thicker typewriting fashion than last time. I could hear nothing more than my own heartbeat. It intensified more and more with each passing letter. My face was practically melting with sweat. As I focused more and more on the letters as they were being typed, the horrified expression on my face would have become more so visible. I think I remember seeing it in the reflection of my laptop. The final message that he gave me, which lost me my sanity and ruined my health, was, "Look behind you." I remember feeling as if everything around me was slowing down. I was really worried. Part of me knew that there would be something behind. A smaller part tried to assure me that there was nothing there. I shut my eyes and clenched my teeth violently together, then shot my head back like a bullet. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I sped out a weak laughter, nodded my head in relief. I felt like everything was safe again, until I looked back to my monitor. I must have seen it at the moment I swerved my chair, but it caught me anyway. There was a face. A fucking face. A fucking pale white man who was grinning at me on my laptop screen. His hair was blonde, but he seemed to be in his mid-20s, but his facial expression was the exact opposite of friendly. His eyes were crimson red. I only saw it for a nanosecond, but it was all I could take. After that, apparently I screamed violently and then fell unconscious for 4 hours. That's what Dr. Martin told me, anyways. He's the guy looking after me at the moment. He doesn't really know what I've been through. So, here I am now, sitting in bed at 4:30 a.m., typing this story to the world. Even as I type, I still worry that that face will appear once again and scare the shit out of me. I seem to be suffering from a trauma. I mean, my eyes have grown dark purple circles around them because I've literally not slept at all since the incident. I've tried sleeping, but that fucking face, stops me from sleeping. Now that I've written this story, I urge everybody to watch out. If you see a red CD-ROM case, just throw it away. Don't open it and don't use it. I'm not going to jump out a third story window. I can't take this anymore. I'm fucking scared. I want to die now. If anyone tries to resuscitate me, then fuck you too. And do not, I repeat, do not go looking for Darwin Clark. He may or may not be real, but he can definitely drive you insane. You have read this message. Do not look for Darwin Clark. If you find him, you will lose your mind. Well, that was a story indeed. Now, this is, I think, our first one that is actually taking place outside of the US. This is actually took place in London. So yeah, this is definitely, I guess, unique for the books. I don't know, but what I do know are my thoughts on this story. So let's talk about that. First off, I think the story is alright. I think it's an alright story. But I will say my problem is probably towards the end. It's just too dramatic. Like the man, he's interacting with this chat box, who turns out to be might be a killer, and he sees a random face who he doesn't even know if it's actually him, and that is enough to make him go insane and want to kill himself. Like, geez, that's a little bit dramatic. I mean, don't get me wrong, the whole thing, experience might be creepy, but I mean, it's a bit dramatic, like, honestly, and that to me honestly kind of kills it. It would have been nice if there actually was something behind him when he looks back. There's actually something, like maybe the ghost of him or like the ghost of his other victims. That would have been a little bit more interesting and would have made sense. And also it would have made sense if he had actually fallen off of the off the staircase. But no, he just falls off the chair and screams violently and then passes out. It would have made much more sense, if he had fallen down the stairs, That would have been a little bit more believable. But the beginning part though, like the first two halves of the story, honestly, I think they're pretty good. It's really good build-up. We do learn a little bit about this character. And we do, sort of see the interaction between him and this bot or, actual person. And interestingly enough, let's talk about that. Now, as for the monster itself, I do like how it's not, some demon or, anything like that. It keeps it mysterious, where it doesn't flat out tell us what it is, but there's enough evidence to, sort of suggest, is this an AI, gone rogue? Or is there, or was this a ghost, or did someone transfer their mindset into this? In Chatroom 98, most likely the number significance is probably made in 1998, probably. But again, though, I like how there's not a flat out answer, because we don't really see this character do paranormal things. Most likely this program, for how it guessed the name and the weather, most likely it probably connected to like it got access to the computer's info, and most likely just saw the weather, how it is right now, or at that time, and also probably it saw that the laptop's name was under David's name, so that's probably how it knew. As for the age, now that is where it's creepy, where you can't really explain that. Maybe he had some account that was up or active or whatever, I'm not sure. Maybe the date of birth was on the computer and he was able to figure out. Again, there's a lot of explanation for some things, and there are some things where it's not. So I do like that, how there are some things you can explain, but there are some things where you can't. I like that. It sort of keeps you guessing. And as for, this AI, supposedly, it killed its, supposedly, if this is in fact a human once before, and right now I guess we'll say it's a ghost, a ghost possessing the CD-ROM. Most likely, he killed his two sisters, brutally, and he was able to transfer his AI before dying, or like a copy of his AI managed to put on the CD-ROM, and probably drove the previous owners insane. Hence, why there's that little subtle detail that when David's parents bought the house, he found like a broken computer. So that's probably, I like that little detail. Where did he make the previous owners, insane where they threw out the computer, or did he also kill them? Did he drive them to suicide? I do like that. And yeah, stuff like that is just interesting. It keeps you, keeps you guessing. Is this, like I said before, an AI or a ghost? And so I do like that. Now, of course, with that being said, also I do want to talk about, again, the ending. Like I said, the ending was just way too dramatic. Like, Jesus, like the story starts out good, good, beginning and middle, but then the end is just, it's just terrible. Like, the character's just dramatic, and it was, seeing this image, drove him to insane to the point of him killing himself, and it's just like, bro, Jesus, like, you just saw an image, and somehow he saw it in a second, or a nanosecond, I should say, and he managed to give a good description of it, and it was enough to make him insane. So yeah, that to me, that took me out of it. And also towards the end, where he's writing, saying, "Don't search up Darwin Clark. It'll drive you insane." And just, I don't know, it's dumb. It it just took me out of the experience, and it was just over the top, honestly. So yeah, I honestly, I recommend checking out this story. Link in the description below. This story is all right. Ending sucked, but uh, the first and middle part are good enough, to where you want to keep, finishing the story towards the end, and the, villain or monster is pretty interesting. So, with that being said, like, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to check out the original video, or story, I should say, and link in the description. Don't forget to check out my other videos as well, my other creepy readings. And with that being said, I am out.